and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be making this Easter basket using the Tonic Studios craft kit, I think it's number 52, Country Apron. And I'm basically using the apron die as the side of my box. And I'm using the Verso pattern that cuts out this nice stripey pattern here, which I love because it's different widths, the stripes. And so I think that just makes it a little bit unique and unusual. I just bought these Easter eggs that are filled with Lego pieces that you can assemble, and then these ones have a bit of candy in them, and then I have another type of egg which is really adorable. It comes in like this, in this sort of packaging where it's pre-cut foam of different colors, and it's got adhesive on one side, so you just peel and stick it onto your Easter egg to decorate your egg with. And so these ones are for the younger kiddos, my nieces and nephews that I'll be making these baskets for. And then the Lego-like ones will be for the older kids who can handle kind of assembling those. So I've already prepared two. These are all of the pieces and dimensions of everything that you'll need to make the base of the box. So we have the front, the back, the bottom, and the handle. The two sides are created using the Tonic Studios dies. So the front is 2 7/8 by 7, and you'll need 2. The bottom is 3 1/8 and by 7, and you'll need 1. Then the handle is 1 7/16 by, well, I cut it to 7 7/8 because I just happen to have that length of a piece of scrap. But that's adjustable. You can make that whatever you want. The 1 7/16 though, that matches the top portion of the apron here. So I think that's the more important measurement. And then the other two measurements are also derived from the size of the apron. So that's how I arrived at these dimensions. Now, the 7 inches is 6 inches as the width of the basket, and then 1/2 inch glue tabs. So that dimension you can kind of play with because that doesn't have to match up with the apron die cut at all. So you can make a wider basket if you want, or a more narrow basket. So that's totally up to you and what you want to put in these. But because I knew I wanted to have a few eggs, like a nice handful of eggs, I went for slightly larger. So I have this already kind of pre-cut and assembled, but I'll do one on camera just so that you can actually see. But here's how it's going to look. So this front and back piece will have 3 glue tabs. Then the bottom piece will have 2 glue tabs. So along the 7-inch side, you want to score at 1/2 inch, and 6 1/2, basically 1/2 inch on each side. And for the front and back, you want to score the bottom 1/2 inch, and then along the 7-inch side, again, you want to score at 1/2 inch and 6 1/2. So I'll kind of leave these on screen as I prepare my second one here. I have to make quite a few, so so I figured it's nice to kind of have at least one on cameras just so that you can see where we're headed, and I'll also talk through what I'm doing. So the first thing I'll do is I'll start to miter these corners. So this is the front or back piece, which we'll need 2 of. So it's 2 7/8 by 7. And where the 2 score lines meet, I am going to cut a mitered corner. Basically, I'm going to cut a diagonal line through that. So here's one score line. I'll just line it up with my mat here, and there's one score line there. There's the horizontal score line along the bottom, and then if you look at that diagonal line, that's what I'm aiming to do, is cut a diagonal line. I'm not going to cut off too far into or far away from the where those two score lines intersect. I'm really just trying to cut through that intersection point, because what we want to do is just eliminate the bulk that is in that corner there once all of the glue tabs are folded in. At the top here, there isn't any risk of any additional tabs that will fold over this, so I'm not going to cut a super steep angle. I'm just going to cut a very slight angle, and that just prevents this glue tab, when it's folded over, from peeking up over the top. So, if your folding and scoring isn't exact, and maybe it sort of slants a little bit, just having that little bit of a slight slant in on that glue tab will help keep everything nice and neat. Then with my double-sided adhesive tape, I'm going to apply adhesive as close to the score line, but not into that score line, because once it's folded, there is that bit of cardstock that has to bend its way around the fold. So I'm trying to get it as close to the edge, because I do like to have adhesive as close to those outside edges as possible, so that when this gets glued down to the piece that it's going to be glued against, you don't have any lifting at those outside edges. And sometimes it's actually nicer to put your glue down first, or your adhesive tape first, before mitering your corners, because then even along those angled edges, you'll have adhesive going all the way, to those edges. And so one thing I haven't mentioned in a while is I don't touch the sticky side of my tape. What I try to do is hold my tape from the side, and only touch it as minimally as possible, or not at all if I can, because the more you touch your adhesive, any lotion or oils or anything that's on your fingers, that will make your adhesive less tacky, less sticky. So that's why I try to always hold it from the side. Now on the back, on the bottom piece, I do the same mitering at trying to aim for that sort of 45-degree angle. And so all of our glue tabs have been mitered, and I do like to use a combination of dry double-sided adhesive tape and a little bit of liquid glue. Dry adhesive, it's going to give you that nice instant grab, which is nice so that you can just continue working on your project, but using a little bit of liquid adhesive will really give it that permanent hold. And whatever adhesive you use, you do want to burnish. What burnishing does, it's particularly important for a dry adhesive, because what you're doing is you're pushing all of the air out between the adhesive and the cardstock. And air is what can eventually dry up that adhesive and cause lifting, and you may not want, if you're trying to create something that's meant to last, you may want for this to hold up for a long time. And so that pushing all of that air out by burnishing is going to be really important. So for the mats and layers, I like for my solid color cardstock to go all the way to the edge. So I've cut this at 2 3/8, so basically subtracting out that 1/2 inch glue tab, by 6 inches. So that's my blue layer. And then I just cut my next layer down the pattern paper. It's 1/4 of an inch less than my solid color cardstock. So that's going to be 5 3/4 of an inch wide by 2 1/8 tall. And again, I'm putting my dry adhesive tape all the way to the edge, so that I can make sure that there's a nice stick or a nice seal all along the outside edge, and then I just squiggled on a little bit of liquid adhesive so that it is going to be nice and permanent. Now, these mats and layers, they're really just decorative, so you don't really need a super strong adhesive because it's not holding the box together in the same way that the glue tabs are. But I still like to have everything be nice and secure and nice and sturdy. And I find it easier to attach my decorative panel once I've folded those tabs in, because then I can just use my fingers and feel when it's flush to each of the four edges. So I'll go ahead and get that placed. Now, if you want to squiggle on a little bit of liquid adhesive right on top of your double-sided adhesive, that's often something I do when I feel like I need that extra little bit of wiggle time. And so, that gives you that extra little insurance if you need to kind of shift it around or move it around a little bit. I instead of burnishing on the front side where you see all the colors and pattern paper, I like to burnish on the inside in this case because we do have that extra layer of the pattern paper. And what I'm trying to do is burnish the blue piece here. And so that's why I burnished from the inside so that I can actually make good contact with that layer, because burnishing over top of the pattern paper, I can't get all the way to the edge of my solid color cardstock. So that is my two front and back panels. And again, you can make this for any occasion that you want, and actually, the shape of it almost looks like a toolbox too. So it would be cute to kind of theme it that way as well. So those are our pieces. Then I also have the apron here from the Tonic Studios craft kit. And to cut this piece, there's one die that will cut the outline of this solid color cardstock, this matte layer here. And then there's a verso die which cuts the stripe detail into the card, but doesn't have an outside cutting edge. So cutting those two together will get you this piece here. And it's perfectly sized to leave a little bit of that white border all the way around the outside edge and around the corners that the main apron die will cut out. So now for the handle. The handle is cut to 1 7/16 by whatever length you choose. The first one that I made just happened to be 7 7/8 because that was a piece of scrap that I had, but I cut the rest of these to 8 inches just to make it an easier cut. And I didn't mention, but my white cardstock, all of it is 120 pounds. So nice, heavyweight cardstock. The Easter eggs themselves are not all that heavy, but whenever I make boxes or anything kind of 3D, I do like to use a heavyweight sort of construction weight cardstock so that everything feels nice and sturdy. It doesn't feel too flimsy. And I'm just going to round the corners with my corner chomper so that it has a nice curvy edge to it, since the apron on these sides have some curvature to them. So I thought that might be like a nice way to finish it. And you could, if you wanted, leave it like this and attach it, but I want to match up the holes because I thought it would be a nice little decorative detail to just tie a little bit of ribbon through those holes. It's purely decorative because I'm going to actually glue the handle to the sides of the box, and the glue is going to do a perfectly fine job of keeping it attached. But because the holes are already there through the apron, I thought let's take advantage of that little bit of detail and add some ribbon. So the way that I align this is I'm just basically placing the handle where I like, where I think it looks nice. I like to just cover that top portion entirely, and of the apron. And I want to just make sure that I'm holding onto this tightly and then just drawing right through the circles on the apron so that I know where to punch on my handle here. So it's really just eyeballing. This can go as far down as you like. Um, and that's totally kind of up to you. I just want to make sure I'm covering enough of the circles so that there's plenty of cardstock surrounding the circles that I'm punching, but I'm also just looking at where the uh, handle ends up and how much of the apron design shows to just pick something, eyeball something that looks good to me. It happens to be about half an inch in from the edge, so I'm gonna go ahead and punch these holes using my Crocodile, which I love because it's got the the wider kind of neck, so you can actually punch further into your project if you need. So this will punch two size holes, 1/8 of an inch and 3/16 of an inch, and I'll be punching the 1/8 inch, which is slightly, I think it's probably right around the correct size, because you'll be able to see your hole. I'll hold it up here so that you can hopefully see what I'm doing. And I like to push down a little bit just so that I can see the hole punch coming down, and I can try to line that up with the hole that I've drawn. And you'll see that hole uh will kind of fit entirely inside of the metal punch. The Crocodile does have this guide that you can set if you want to keep your hole punching really consistent, but this is pretty close to the edge, so you can't push that guide that far up towards the holes. So really I just kind of eyeballed it. um Okay, so we basically have all of the pieces now, so we can start to put together our box. So I am going to squeal on a little bit of liquid adhesive just to give myself some time to move this around. Basically, what I'm trying to do is line this up so that the bottom of the apron matches up with the bottom of my front panel here, so where that score line is. And you can kind of do this however is most comfortable for you, that gets good results. I like to attach it from the front, but you can also maybe use the grid lines on your mat and just make sure that bottom edge, it matches up with the folded edge of the front and the back. So whatever kind of works best for you. And here you can see why it's important to cut those mitered corners, because when we go to attach this bottom piece, if we didn't cut off that corner, we'd have some overlapping cardstock there. And that's just going to make everything bulky. And so by cutting that slight angle, it cleans that up. And also you could use the matte layer to cut an extra piece and attach that, adhere it right over on the inside of your box to cover up all of these glue tabs if you want to really neaten this up. I'm not too terribly concerned about doing that because this is going to my nieces and nephews, and I don't think they'll mind that that the glue tabs are showing. It's going to be filled with all that Easter grass anyways, so so I don't even think they'll really notice, especially once they get into the candy and the toys. So I like to also attach the bottom to on this one side to start, and then I'm going to continue with the edges, so that now I have my back piece that I'll attach to the side. And I do like to attach this kind of in the air just to hold it up, and that way I can use my fingers to feel when those corners are flush with each other. And so I'll do a double check against my mat just to make sure everything's lined up. But the next piece will be another side piece. So you're just going to alternate the front, a side piece, the back, and then another side piece. And so when all of this is nice and attached, everything is squared off and aligned, you'll be able to fold this down and then just glue this last tab. So that, again, still, even though this is probably the easiest one to line up, I still like a little bit of that liquid adhesive to, again, make sure that this is a really nice permanent hold. And this portion of gluing is structural, so these glue tabs you do want to be nice and secure so that the bottom doesn't fall out, the sides don't come apart. This little glue adhesive that I have, I'm just gonna bend that back on itself so that it's not sticking out and potentially snagging or adhering to something else. And for this last bottom piece, I'm gonna glue all 3 glue tabs at or put glue on all of them at the same time. So I like to get this end in first because it's going to keep everything straight and level, and I'm trying to keep the 2 sides from or the front and back, I should say, from not touching just yet. But I find once I get that far end on the side of the box down, then the other 2 just naturally kind of find their way, and you can just push straight down. And of course, always giving a really good burnish along the way from the inside. And so I'm gonna burnish all of my glue tabs, and that's basically the bottom complete. So here you can see if you wanted to cut another layer of the matte layer, you can do that, and that really does finish off the inside pretty nicely. It hides those glue tabs and makes the sides stronger if you need them to be stronger. And as well, you can also put another layer of cardstock at the bottom too, if you want to cover up those glue tabs and also reinforce the bottom so that it's also nice and neat, and all of those glue tabs are hidden. And now we just need to attach the handle. So I like to put adhesive, liquid adhesive, along the top edge of the side and along the bottom edge of the handle and all the way around the hole. So that really ensures that I have adhesive on all the outside kind of edges. And since it's all liquid adhesive, I'm going to just use some clips to hold that in place. And I'm putting a little bit of scrap paper on top of this so that my clips don't dent into my final project. And even though I'm using a liquid PVA glue that's very low water content, it's Lenco pH Neutral is the brand. It's pretty fast grabbing, but this is kind of on a bend, on a curve, and so I do like to kind of clip these in place so that I don't have to wait for the glue to dry, so that I can kind of continue to work on it and get the second side attached. And because it's curved like that, there's going to be some kind of natural tension for that glue to lift, and the clips will do a good job of keeping that in place. And I don't think I mentioned it, but I did use my bone folder to just give some curvature to that handle so that it makes it easier to attach to the box when we get to that point, and it'll actually reduce some of that tension. So I'm going to do that again a little bit more quickly just in case you need to see it. So I'm attaching the front panel to my side panel, and if you're gonna if maybe your cuts are a little bit off for whatever reason, I would err on making sure the bottom of everything is nice and flush. So the bottom of the apron piece, which is the side of your box, and that folded edge of the 2 long pieces, your front and your back, I would make sure all of that lines up. And if you're off a little bit at the top, then that's not as big of a deal, because at least then your box will sit nice and flush to your table, and the bottom piece that I'm attaching now will also attach nice and will be nice and square. And so if anything, just err on the side of lining up the bottom edge as best you can. And so I did attach that bottom piece to one side, and now I'm going to attach the second side to the back piece here, making sure that it's also lined up nice and straight. And I like to use my grid mat, and when I fold it down, I'm also doing a little bit of a double check to make sure everything's lined up. And that's why having that little bit of liquid adhesive is kind of nice. And since all of our pieces are kind of sort of mirroring each other, everything should fold down nice and flat. And it'll be easy to get that last glue tab along those outside edges completed. And now for the bottom, I removed the liner on both the front and the back glue tabs and the side glue tab. I do like to put the side in first, because I find that once that's in, then everything else is lined up for the other two remaining edges. And I just need to push that down and just make sure that that the box is nice and straight, and that the bottom is flush with the two side panels. And then of course giving everything a really strong, nice burnish, and making sure that we push all of the air out so that the dry double-sided adhesive tape has a firmer stick. But even if you just use only liquid adhesive, it's still good to burnish so that you can really make sure that it's nice and even, the glue is nicely spread out, and that it starts to kind of absorb into your paper. And then again, with the handles, I'm just lining up the holes, and I am making sure to put adhesive pretty much, everywhere on this handle. Really want to make sure that this holds well, and a little bit at the top of the apron too, just to make sure that that outside edge is firmly stuck down and we don't get any lifting at the edges. And again, I'm gonna just use some scrap paper so that my clips don't kind of dig into the nice finished outside. So that's our box complete. The only thing left to do is just tie a little bit of ribbon through these holes here, and I just have a stretch of ribbon that is around 8 to 9 inches. That's totally up to you. Sorry, I'm using twine, not ribbon. I keep saying ribbon. But you can use ribbon. You can use whatever you like. And on the ends, I do like to put a little bit of fray check, which prevents the edges from fraying and sort of untwisting, since I am using twine. And I'm just gonna tie like a really super simple bow. The twine, as I mentioned before, is not structural. It's really not meant to hold everything in place. Certainly it's going to help with that, but I think the glue is going to do just fine with holding the handle in place. This is more decorative, just to have a little fun detail on the side here. And that's our box complete. So really cute Easter baskets. I haven't ever sent Easter goodies to my nieces and nephews before, but when I saw the Country Apron craft kit, the first thing I thought to do was actually to create an Easter basket from the apron. So I hope that you like this project as well. The dies in the kit do have dies to create a box. It's just a smaller box where your apron is the front of the box. I've just turned this so that the aprons are on the side so that I can make a larger box. Thank you so much for joining me today, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and ringing the notification bell so that you are notified anytime I post new videos to my channel. Thank you again. Until next time, have a fantastic day. Bye.